Welcome back, folks. The Kingsley-Pierson School Board voted in favor of ending the sports sharing agreement between themselves and River Valley in their April 8th board meeting after what will be just 3 sports seasons with the 2 schools sharing most of their athletics. Now let's take a look at a timeline of the events here. On February 13th, the KP School Board unanimously extended a sharing agreement to River Valley for football. Then on February 20th, River Valley unanimously approved said agreement. After the success of the football program on October 9th, the Kingsley-Pierson Board voted all in favor to begin a 2-year sharing agreement with the exception of wrestling. The River Valley School Board followed suit on October 16th, voting 5-1 in favor of approving a 2-year sports sharing agreement with Kingsley-Pierson with the exception of girls wrestling. And on November 13th, the KP board voted to approve sharing the wrestling program with River Valley. Now in November, River Valley had a more in-depth discussion about seeing more River Valley representation in their sports, including colors and logos, as well as asking Superintendent Scott Bailey to have a discussion of both districts being represented equally in athletics. Fast forward to December 18th, a newly elected board in River Valley requested a meeting with Kingsley-Pierson, and then on January 15th, that same board ratified and confirmed the sharing agreement. Move ahead, though, to March 11th, when at a Kingsley-Pierson board meeting, 9 citizens spoke about the agreement before discussion was tabled for April 8th. On March 25th, the River Valley School Board had discussions about the negativity from coaches and the community regarding the sharing agreement. And finally, that brings us to April 8th, where Kingsley-Pierson, with 1 abstaining voter, voted 3-0 in favor of absolving the agreement with River Valley after the summer season, with the exception of football. Now, the KPRV football agreement will be looked at after the 2024-2025 sports season ends.
Yeah, I think there were some community members that wanted Kingsley to stay by themselves. And you know, I heard the same things at the River Valley board meetings before the sharing went into place. They wanted to stay by themselves for some sports too. So again, the board listened to what the public wanted, and they made a decision from there.